news and events COVID-19 on June 12 vertical line world news vertical line KCVC note. This is a collaborative video made between Travel for All FanPage and Knowledge of Coronavirus channel. Please respectfully welcome everyone. The following is the remarkable news most on June 12 as follows. 1. American news. Amid the risk of a second outbreak of COVID-19, June 11, Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin said the United States would not close its economy to prevent the spread of the COVID-19 epidemic, even when this disease outbreak is strong in some states. The Wall Street stock market rebounded in the opening session on 12/6 after a series of plummeting days earlier. About 50 minutes after the start of the session, the Dow Jones Industrial Index rose by 2.8% at 25,831.52 points. S&P 500 Index increased by 2.3% to 3,071.57 points, while the Nasdaq Composite Technology Index increased by 2.2% to 9,703.13 points. The U.S. stock index's rebound after the University of Michigan data showed that the confidence of U.S. consumers increased surprisingly. However, some analysts predict that these indicators will continue to fluctuate. It can be seen that both the Democratic and the Republican factions in the U.S. are seeking individual reforms, demonstrating a degree of bipartisan consensus on the issue of reforming police forces in the United States. What cannot be found in other issues in Washington. On June 8, the Democratic Party announced a sweeping bill of reforming police forces as an answer to protesters' appeals. Just one day later, Republican MPs also said they were also planning to introduce their own reform proposals. 2. Updated COVID-19 worldwide. As of 6 a.m. on June 12, the world recorded 7,582,351 people infected, including 423,023 deaths and 3,832,972 patients recovered. This is the second day in a row the world recorded a new record high on the day of more than 135,000 cases, with the highest number of new cases recorded in Brazil, 30,465, and the United States, 22.604. So far, the two countries with the highest number of infected people in the world recorded 805,649 and 2,089,005 people with COVID-19, respectively. The deaths in these two countries were 41,058 and 116,025, respectively. Russia ranked third with 502,436 cases of COVID-19 and 6,532 deaths. India continues to set a new record, shattering all previous records when enrolling in the top 4 countries with the highest number of COVID-19 cases in the world, with 298,283 people infected and 8,502 deaths. In Europe, regarding the new wave of outbreaks, European Union officials and experts say that Europe could face an increase in COVID-19 cases in the coming weeks due to mass protests took place on the continent in recent days. In recent days, tens of thousands of protesters have gathered in major European cities to protest racism after the death of American black citizen George Floyd when police arrested him. Most EU member states have passed the peak of the COVID-19 epidemic and are gradually reopening to businesses and borders as the number of infections has declined in recent weeks. Prior to the recent protests, scientists had predicted a second outbreak after the summer. However, mass rallies can impact this positive trend. Asked about the possibility of a second outbreak sooner due to the protests, Martin Sachel, an official of the European Commission, said, regarding respiratory infections, even crowded people can be a high-risk pathway. 3. News from Italy. According to the Italian Civil Protection Agency, the total number of COVID-19 cases was 236,142 cases, including 34,167 deaths and 171,338 patients who recovered. The Ministry of Health confirmed that COVID-19 is still spreading and that asymptomatic cases are on the rise. Caution is still a basic rule when vaccines are not available. Sick. Health Minister Roberto Speranza said that the number of COVID-19 cases recovering increased. The epidemiological curve was going down. Many regions had a zero index. The number of deaths decreased, and the RT index, transmission index infection after applying measures to prevent the spread of the disease in Italy, is currently below 1. Minister Speranza said that these are positive signs, but only part of the current disease situation, because that can't stop being on guard. However, Mr. Speranza confirmed that the disease was not over. There were still outbreaks of infection. Cases without symptoms accounted for a high proportion, and the virus continued circulating. Therefore, strict measures should be implemented immediately when necessary. 4. Egyptian news. On June 11, the Egyptian Ministry of Health announced an additional 1,442 cases of COVID-19, bringing the total to 39,726. In addition, there have been 35 more deaths in the past 24 hours from COVID-19, bringing the total number of deaths from the disease to 1,377. In addition, 402 patients with COVID-19 recovered from the disease, bringing the total number of patients recovered to 10,691. Earlier, head of the Health Sciences Committee of the Egyptian Ministry of Health, Dr. Hazem Hosni, said that the number of COVID-19 cases in Egypt would continue to increase this month until reaching the threshold of 2,500. Day shift. 5. News of Ukraine. On June 11, the Ministry of Health announced that the number of new cases of COVID-19 in the country was 689, the highest level since the day Ukraine recorded the first case. Health Minister Maxim Stepanov admitted that the country has never recorded such a high number of cases, including the most difficult time in April when the disease situation was very serious. With these new infections, Ukraine has so far confirmed a total of 29,070 COVID-19 patients, of which 854 deaths and 13,141 recovery cases. 6. Russian news. On June 11, Russia introduced the Aviflavir drug, which was licensed to treat COVID-19 patients. In a press release, the Russian Direct Investment Fund, RDIF, said the first batch of anti-SARS-CoV-2 drugs were supplied to a number of hospitals and clinics across Russia. RDIF has provided funding for drug trials and has a 50% stake in pharmaceutical manufacturer Kemrar. Previously, the Russian Ministry of Health licensed the use of Aviflavir, under which a special preparation process with a shorter time and with fewer testers than many other countries took place in parallel with clinical trials. Last week, RDIF Director Kirill Dmitriev said the pharmaceutical company Kemrar is planning to produce a sufficient amount of drugs to treat about 60,000 people a month. There is currently no vaccine to prevent COVID-19, while human trials of existing antiviral drugs have not yet yielded positive results. According to Dmitriev, there are now 10 countries ordering Aviflavir. 7. Brazilian news. Concerning the COVID-19 vaccine, June 11, Brazilian governor of the state of São Paulo, João Doria, announced that the local Butantan Institute would link with a Chinese laboratory to produce the vaccine and is currently in final testing phase. Speaking at a press conference, Doria said the Butantan Institute had signed a technology agreement with Sinovac Biotech Pharmaceutical Group to produce this highly anticipated vaccine, while confirming it was a calendar day. History for Sao Paulo and Brazil, as well as world science. According to the research results, the COVID-19 vaccine will be available in the first half of 2021. It is expected that the Chinese corporation will provide the Butantan Institute with vaccine doses for clinical phase 3 testing with volunteers in Brazil from July to here. There are currently 9,000 volunteers ready to participate in this phase. 8. Vietnam news. In Vietnam, 57 days have not recorded new cases of COVID-19 in the community. The current number of cases is 332, of which 321 have been declared cured. The remaining 11 patients are being treated at health facilities across the country, of which 5 patients have received the results test negative with COVID-19 from one time or more. 9. Chinese news. June 11, Beijing records the first new COVID-19 case in nearly 2 months. 10. Indonesia news. Today, Indonesia has recorded 979 new cases and 41 deaths, bringing the total number of cases and deaths from the disease to 35,295 and 2,000 respectively. In addition, up to now, a total of 12,636 people have recovered, 43,414 are under surveillance and 14,052 cases are monitored in 34 provinces and cities across the country due to the appearance of COVID-19 symptoms. Picture but not yet tested. 11. Philippines news. The Philippines Ministry of Health confirmed 9 more deaths and 443 new cases, bringing the total to 1,036 deaths out of 24,175 cases. Meanwhile, Malaysian health officials said the country recorded 31 new cases, bringing the total to 8,369 cases. However, there were no more deaths in the past 24 hours and the total number of deaths remained the same at 118. 12. Iran news. On June 11, Iranian health officials confirmed the number of COVID-19 cases in the country exceeded 180,000 after an additional 2,218 new cases were recorded in the past 24 hours. Speaking at a press conference, Shima Sadatlari, a spokesman for Iran's Ministry of Health, said the Asian nation had a total of 180,156 people infected, while the number of deaths also increased by 78 to 8,584 people. To date, 142,663 patients have been cured and recovered from their health, while 2,728 patients remain in critical condition. Iran is the country most heavily affected by the COVID-19 pandemic in the Middle East, after the first 2 deaths were detected in Qom City on February 19. Our newsletter is now over. Thank you for always watching and supporting our videos. Knowledge of coronavirus, channel and travel for all fantage respectfully, and see you in the next video. 10. Latin American news. COVID-19 continued raging in Latin America, with a total of more than 70,000 people died from the beginning of the season, according to official data provided by countries. In Mexico, in the last 24 hours alone, 708 people have died. According to AFP, Mexico is the second Latin American country with 15,357 deaths in total, after Brazil, nearly 40,000 deaths. Mexico also ranks first in the number of people recorded with a new strain of coronavirus in the past 24 hours, more than 4,800 people. Mr. Hugo Lopez Gueto, Vice Minister of Health, in charge of the anti-COVID-19 strategy in Mexico, said that for the last 17 or 18 days, the COVID-19 epidemic had not shown signs of abating. In Brazil, meanwhile, yesterday, Sao Paulo, the nation's economic capital, reopened a portion of its businesses. The tourism capital of Rio de Janeiro has begun to allow the reopening of many shopping malls under certain conditions. Many experts believe that the government was wrong to rush to open businesses when the epidemic was raging. 11. Russian news. Moscow has never recorded such a high number of deaths. According to official data released yesterday, June 10, 2020, with more than 15,000 deaths in May, mortality increased to 60% compared to 2019. According to the explanation of the Russian capital's government, more than 5,000 people die from coronavirus, directly or indirectly. This new statistic is twice as high as the previous report. Our newsletter is now over. Thank you for always watching and supporting our videos. Knowledge of coronavirus, channel and travel for all fantage respectfully, and see you in the next video.